Something.
Not awful. But you know, steps, you want the steps to be.
The time is 5:31 on Monday, August 14th, and I'd like to call this work session to order. First on our agenda are city updates. So Ms. Solano, please take it away.
Thank you, Madam Chair, City Council, and Mayor Gratis. I have a few updates this evening, and I'll just speed through them. The first is just a reminder of, I've heard from one of you that we'll be riding on the float for both the State Fair Parade on Saturday, August 26th, and again on the Fiesta Day Parade the week later. So if any of you would like to ride on the parade, would you send a quick note so the parade float builders know how many other invitations to send to the youth that are right on the floats. And then work session, Council Chair Sarah Martinez has made the decision that canceled the Monday work session on August the 28th. 4 of you plan to be in attendance at the Kicking Cancer State Fair event that will run from 4 to 7. But the City Council meeting will begin at 7 that evening on, again, Monday, August the 28th. No work session, but yes, council meeting. I did meet with County Manager Sabina Genazio last week. She requested that I share with both the mayor, who I've told, and all of you that the Board of County Commissioners is open to a study of the gondola, but only with first an RFP or an RFQ that they said they would take the lead to issue. And they would also add the component of economic development improvements in the downtown area. If that's anything that under your consensus of direction, I can reply back to her. But they were not in support of just the $42,000 match directly to the current presenter. We also talked about the $15,000 match from the county for the HSPPR $30,000 request for a cohort of 13 students for the vet assistance program at PCC. And Sabina had indicated that the county commissioners had not considered that yet, and she was bringing it to their attention this week. So we'll wait to hear back from her, and I can report again to you if the county is interested in supporting that first cohort of vet assistance students at the college. There is in front of you this evening the 2022 annual comprehensive financial report. You have the electronic copy as well, and the auditing firm of Reuben Brown, the CPAs, will be here next Monday for the September the 21st, I'm already next month. Wishful, the August 21st work session to present the audit findings and the audit results. So they are on the agenda for next week, but you have the hard copy and the electronic copy early. If you're reviewing it and you have specific questions, would you just send me an email message that we could get to them so they're prepared if you have a detailed question that you'd like for them to respond to next week? And I then have the ARPA fund status balances. You do not have electronically yet. I do have it in front of you this evening in hard copy, and I'll send it tomorrow. It will show that the city has earned in interest from the ARPA fund $1,326,460 over the time that we've had the money and the resources in the savings account. So it has to be a designated separate account, and it's earning nice interest now into 2023. The listing by month is there for that Catherine prepares for you. It also shows only different from last month is on the very last page of the report under the pending projects. We've done our work, and I think the city attorney's office is looking to make sure, but I think Jay is pretty final with the fact that the Real-Time Crime Center project does qualify for ARPA. So it is listed there separate from the public safety amount that had 2.5 that now separates the 1.5. And city council asked for a work session on this purchase, and it is scheduled for Tuesday, September the 5th, when numbers might be a little bit better as they're value engineering the bid right now out of IT. So the 1.5 is the initial look that it can qualify for ARPA funds if council approves mayor's recommendation and staff's recommendation on September the 5th to move forward. The balance in the other handout is the balance from let me stop there. The balance in the current basic ARPA then, if the funding projects that are pending go through, is under $1,769,678. So want to bring you these balances on a monthly basis. There is no other new item to be presented this evening. The balance of the $10 million lost revenue is on the second handout, and it has remained at the same balance for a bit of time at $412,833 to be used on government services projects. And the one item on the city council agenda this evening is the request from United Way in the amount of $600,000 that it's item R2. They did present the work session update last Monday. And that concludes the city's updates. Do you have any questions or directions?
Yeah, that was quite a lot. Any questions or clarification from Ms. Lano? Counselor Graham?
Okay, Ms. Solano, I have a couple. So number one, can we get the team up to clean up folks back out for another presentation on where they are and what they've been doing? Barbara and her people.
Yes. And thank you. That reminds me, while you're speaking of trash, Andrew just texted me that said, Laura, I sent you the update on the state fair cleanup. Can I add that? We have 5 dumpsters located around the state fairgrounds. They do plan to sweep every evening as the fair time closes. They're going to sweep, it looks like, about 370 acres around the fairgrounds from Prairie, Bragdon, Small, and Northern. So they're scheduled as the fair gets closer in another 10 days. I'm sorry. Thank you.
You're fine. That's outstanding. Number two, getting more background information on the collective bargaining agreement with the fire union. I see in the background paper, it's 7% for next year and additional 7.3 for the year after. And then year 3 to be undetermined. So I'm curious the financial implications on the budget through 2027, like we did for PD when we were asking for more money for them. I've reached out to some department heads and I've yet to get an answer.
I can
And-
send that electronically and also report on that next. We don't have a work session. We do next week.
Or
because-
staff, under the staff report.
Yes.
Great. And then the last thing is do we need to schedule an executive session for the shelter options now that we've all received them? We've yet to receive any staff recommendations thus far.
Thank you. I'll work with legal to schedule that. It'd have to be the 28th after or perhaps next week. After the work session next week. Next week, we have a work session on the 21st. I don't know why I'm jumping to September. Only because the information, well, I believe, and please help me out, city attorney, is because there's information I included on that comparison that was presented only in executive session.
That, and also if you want to instruct particular negotiations and what you want to get out of the particular ARPA agreements, you'd want to do it in executive session. But the bigger one was one of the proposals had real property that they didn't want to disclose publicly. I don't believe so. Well, we can review it, and that'll be one of the things I'll review with George and how he wants to schedule the executive session. Okay.
Counselor Flores?
Yeah, I had a couple of things. The first one is I got involved on the runway for the Sky Corral Radio Control Club. These are the people that have had a runway out at the Honor Farm for probably 40 to 50 years. It goes way back. And as a result of the configuration and the engineering of the new roadway between Pueblo West and Pueblo Boulevard, they are no longer going to be able to use that runway. And I had, before Commissioner Garrison Ortiz resigned from the county, I had worked out an arrangement where we would have included that cost in the negotiations we did for the HARP Authority for the extension of the channel in the boathouse. And that fell apart. We did resolve the extension of the channel and the boathouse, but we never resolved the issue with that runway. And as I understand, the city now has provided an estimate through the Honor Farm Committee and maybe through Parks and Rec. And I just don't need anything definitive now, but I just need an update as to what the city's involvement is before I go back and talk to the county commissioners about whether they're still going to be part of the solution. Because it really is their fault that these people are losing their runway because they're the ones that designed the roadway. And I think there's justification that they did it because it needs to sidestep all those gullies that are out there. So I understand that they did need that, but we still need to resolve that issue. And I just need an update from, I don't know if it's Park and Rec or whether it is some other department.
We've talked about this. We don't have any plans to get involved in that. We might have asked them to estimate the costs. I haven't heard what that estimate is, but at the current time, we don't have any plans to get involved in redoing that runway or relocating that runway or anything like that.
And I'm mistaken, but there's an actual estimate from on city letterhead
There is?
as to the cost
Okay,
to replace that if we utilize some of our internal people. So I'll find that and
Okay,
then I'll
send
give
that
you
to
a
me.
copy. I just thought we were, because of that, I thought we were involved.
No.
So that could be my mistake.
no.
And then the other thing I need to look at is channel 17 and the government channel. We do have an item tonight in extending that PEG agreement with Comcast. But I noticed that there is a $15,000 amount that's kind of hanging out there. And I don't know, I'd like to know where that money goes and whether or not there's been an accumulation of that 15,000 for a long time. Because I really think at some point we need to look at improving our government channel. You know, we're bare bones there. And I think PCC does an excellent job for the amount of money that we pay them to do that. But I think at some point we need to broaden, we need to, you look at that channel and it's just black space probably 90% of the time. You really have to guess when they're going to re-televise our city council meetings. There's stuff on there that's probably 10 to 12 years old that's rerunning constantly. But I just think there's an opportunity there to provide more information to the community, and we should consider that. So, but I just need, I need to find out about what we're doing with that additional spare amount of money. And it's on our agenda tonight because you know, we pay PCC, we pay District 60 to run their channel, but there's this surplus that I'd like to know if it's built up, and maybe that's the area that we try to do a study on how we improve Channel 17.
Councilor Flores, when that item comes up this evening, I think the staff presentation will be from Haley Robinson. But as the math works annually, it is the portion that the city retains, and it does assist with helping to pay the PCC fee for broadcasting now weekly instead of biweekly. So I think that she will clarify that though this evening as the math works.
Any other questions or comments for Ms. Solano? I guess I did have a question or a thought, you know, as the state fair is approaching. I know that we've passed the Team Up to Clean Up $1 million ARPA cleanups. I'm wondering if there's a chance for the city to, instead of doing trash, really focusing on weeds around like the major thoroughfares like Highway 50 and I-25 and Prairie, utilizing those amount, like that team, because it's still, you know, in the effort of cleaning up the built environment. So I, you know, even just driving around this weekend, there's just, with all the rain that we've gotten, there's so many weeds, particularly either on CDOT right away or city property. And it would be a shame or a missed opportunity if we didn't do something about it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We'll pass that on to Andrew Hayes, and I won't know the specifics this evening from being able to pull the weeds on CDOT property. Counselor Tencio and I think the mayor have worked on CDOT property weed cleanup coming on Highway 47, but we'll definitely share that with him as there's just 10 days or so before that fair starts.
Did you have anything, Counselor Maestri?
No, I didn't miss that.
Okay. Seeing no other questions then for city staff, I'd like to move on to the next agenda item, the Pueblo Film Fest. So I don't see Miss Jabley in the audience, but do we have Mr. Medine and Miss Sky Hoffman to the podium, please?
Hello, I'm Jeff Medine. I'm the president of the Pueblo Film Fest. We are going to have a festival April 26th through the 28th of 24. And we need some money.
It's true. I'm Kristen. I am a newly invited board member to the Pueblo Film Fest. And I'm really excited not only to ask you all to help us fund it, but also to tell you a little bit about it. I'm not sure if you've heard much. We have a couple of film festivals that are local, but this is an international film festival. We already have, I think, 45 submissions from around the country, including and outside the country. I think Italy, Iceland, Russia, Norway, filmmakers from all over are getting kind of a sense of what Pueblo is and maybe hearing about us for the first time. I grew up in Pueblo and moved away for about 20 years and lived in New York and Seattle and a few big cities and delved into some filmmaking myself. And I think if you're born after a certain year, the thing that you usually hear when you say, I'm from Pueblo, Colorado, they go, oh, the place where the brochures are printed, right? That's what everybody always says to me. I'm sorry. Yeah, the government brochures, they come from Pueblo, Colorado. And I think this is an opportunity for us to represent ourselves in a new way that is a more accurate way, which is a cultural place where there are lots of creatives and artistic people who are looking to bring money and awareness to this really beautiful and unique town. Our operating budget is about $20,000. That's what we're looking for. And we have grant applications out and we're confident that we'll get some support in those areas. But the most pressing thing is we're trying to book our venue officially, which is the Art Center. They need about $900 immediately for us to secure our dates, and that is pretty timely. We have a really enthusiastic and dedicated board who really wants this to happen and are working really hard to get awareness out about it, but no one is in a position to fund it. And so we definitely need help. I think we're asking for $1,000 from you today, but if we can ask for more, we definitely are. So no qualms about that. Am I forgetting anything?
Check my notes. There's going to be 2 screens.
Yep.
We're going to have various categories: student category, experimental, mini shorts. But this year will be a short film festival, meaning the longest film will be 40 minutes.
Yes.
Like a TV show.
So no features until hopefully next year, just to get our feet wet and get people aware of it. We were actually offered a much less expensive space out at CSUP to hold this, but we really thought, the whole board thought it was very important to bring people to downtown Pueblo, where they can take advantage of the hotels and the local restaurants and the local businesses and really get a sense of the feeling of what we are, rather than sending them out, you know where CSUP is. And we want to make sure that they get a real accurate sense of what it is. We're really anticipating people coming to see their shows screened here. And I think it's a really exciting thing, since I haven't been back in town even 2 years, and I really am thrilled at all of the wonderful things in the arts community that are blossoming. And this was a really great one. And the fact that I got invited to be a part of it was a really big deal. I know that is not nearly all of our time, but we are happy to answer any questions that you might have or concerns, anything. We're all ears.
Great. Thank you for that presentation for the Pueblo Film Fest. Counselor Martinez Ortega.
Thank you. And thank you both for coming and asking for that money. And yeah, grants, as you write them and wait for them, take a little bit longer. I think, I would just like to ask a couple questions about the
Sure.
Film Fest. How many folks do you anticipate participating?
Well, it's a good question. Right now, we have 45 submissions. So we get to decide how many we actually bring in and invite. We have people from Colorado that are submitting. Definitely student films are coming through. We're really hopeful that Pueblo filmmakers will submit too. I think we have a few.
Oh,
Um,
we hope so.
Yeah, and as we are working on marketing and building our website out even more, we're hoping that we can, use social media and use our resources to get the word out. So I want lots of people. How many are you thinking?
I hope we get 200 submissions.
Yeah.
I think we probably can.
And so this would be like a full day of viewing.
3 days.
2 days.
Three,
The first day is a meet and greet at Blowback. That'd be a Friday night. And then Saturday and Sunday.
Are the shows
All day,
where we
12.
screen everything
that sounds awesome.
and have an award ceremony. It's going to be really fun.
That sounds great. Think about coming back, and you said this is in April?
End of
next year-
April.
End of April next year?
Mhm.
Think about coming back and maybe asking us again for some, like, maybe some prize money for some of like the top awards or whatever.
I will
That'd
think
be
about
great.
that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It's a great suggestion.
Counselor Flores?
This is exciting. It sounds to me like it has a lot of potential, but what it has potential for is people from out of town coming into Pueblo, using our hotels and our restaurants and our retail stores.
Yeah.
And has there been, obviously, this is the first time you're going to do it, so it's hard to kind of estimate what you have, but even if what is the estimate of how many films you can actually show? And I know there's different periods and times, but
Yeah, that's a really great,
Mhm.
great question. Since we have different categories, they're all going to have different time limits. And so I think after we have our adjudication process and we choose which movies we're going to actually screen and which will be included, because if we get 200 submissions, we're not going to be able to show 200 films. But we'll break it down into categories and try to show as many as that are great. We want them to be wonderful films that we're showing people so that we can build our audience for next year. And yeah, I mean, do you have an estimate, Jeff?
how many we can possibly show?
Screen, yeah, in 2 days.
Some film festivals, they'll show twice.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's gonna be, juggling act.
And then
Plus
who's
pieces and-
judging? Obviously, you're going to give prizes to the various
We haven't
categories.
picked judges yet.
Okay.
we'll put together our adjudication panel once our submission process is closed. It will probably be people from the community who work in film, different I don't know, Pueblo representatives who are interested in this sort of thing. Definitely our board will be a part of the selection process, but we're definitely prioritizing Colorado locals, but absolutely we want to bring people in from other places because that's the priority number one. We're also thinking about putting together a welcome package for all of the people from out of town. These are the restaurants that are nearby. This is a great place to stay. If you have rented a car, make sure you head up here or go see Bishop's Castle. Like there's all sorts of things to do. And everybody that's on our board really loves this town. And so they absolutely want to make sure that people get a great experience. And I want to work our reputation up even within our own state.
April is not a tourist month, so that those should be some hotels, motels available.
Yeah,
Well, thank you.
thank you.
Counselor Tencio?
Yeah, do you have any estimates as to the attendance? The Art Center holds what, 700 people?
Yeah, we'd like 700 people.
You know, both days?
You gonna come?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I'll be there.
That's good. Yeah, I think we'll get a good turnout, especially if we can get some funding to really raise awareness about
We
it.
have a lot of
Are
time
you
to
gonna be
to raise.
charging a fee to get in?
I think there is a fee, yeah.
There does be a fee,
There will be.
ticketing fee.
And are you a nonprofit? Are you?
We are a nonprofit.
You are a nonprofit?
Yeah, we're a 501c3.
Okay, yeah, that makes it easier. That makes it better.
Definitely to get grants.
No, I like the idea. I really do. I did a few feature films as an actor myself.
Oh,
way
cool.
Long time ago, so
Maybe you're an
I
adjudicator.
still can, I
Yeah.
can still do it, as a matter of fact.
Great.
Be a screener.
But no, I really like the idea. And then bringing a film festival to Pueblo and then bringing people into Pueblo to witness and to be part of it is a great idea.
It's really validating to hear that from all of you.
Other questions, Counselor Winter?
Yeah, I know that you've been working on this a long time, so it's nice to see it finally gelling. I'd be happy to donate some money. I'd also be happy to volunteer too.
Oh,
So-
Wonderful,
would
thank
accept that.
you.
All right, so I'll get with you, Jeff, and
Okay,
drop a check off.
thank you, Lori.
Awesome.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you so much, and we look forward to April 26th through 28th.
It's great. Maybe we'll see you before for some prize money. Thank you, guys.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
I'm willing to
Counselor.
sponsor a resolution to donate $1,000 if it's possible.
Fantastic. So it sounds like we have that direction to have that from our council contingency moving forward. Great.
Thank you.
All right, next on our agenda, we're going to learn about Proposition 123. So can I have Miss Miller to the podium, please?
Did it work? All right. Who's doing the slideshow? I said Tracy. I'm gonna drive? No, I can drive.
It's that arrow on the top right.
I sent it to Tracy. I can wing it without it if we don't have it. All right, so I will get going without the presentation. We'll bring it up when it's available. So I was asked to give a quick overview of Prop 123, and then kind of where the city's currently standing with it. Currently, Prop 123 takes a baseline calculation to determine what the need is for your community. This would cover just within city limits. Pueblo County has to do their own opt-in process for Prop 123, which they are working on. The city staff have begun that process. They are working with staff at DOLA to get some corrections made and make sure they are in understanding of what all needs to be done and what reporting will look like. The need for Prop 123 opt-in process allows for then private developers, nonprofits, other government agencies to then apply for the funds. That is, all you're doing is opening up that availability. You're not actually applying for any funds with opting in. You're just opening up the availability for other developers to do so. If you do not opt in as the city, then no project within city limits can apply for funds under Prop 123. There is a affordable housing baseline assistance tool online that can be used to help set that baseline and determine what those numbers are. Opting in, you are going to then be making a commitment of increasing your affordable housing stock by 3% over 3 years, or a total of 9% over those 3 years. So you have to create that baseline number first to determine what that 3% or total of 9% is going to look like. If you do not meet that 9% commitment at the end of those 3 years, you will then not be able to participate, and no developers will be able to apply for funds for the 4th year. So for 12 months, you will have to sit out from Prop 123 availability. That is the only repercussion of not meeting that opt-in commitment. So 60% of the Prop 123 funds were allocated to OEdit, which has then contracted with Chaffa, and they will be handling all rental side of Prop 123 funds. And they're going to do that through 3 different kind of subcategories. The first one, which has already been released, is land banking. The second is going to be equity. And the third is going to be concessionary debt. This is where I wish we had those slides. Are we close?
Oh, that could have been. I'll try and wait to go over what those three look like, just so that you guys have a little bit better, visuals for those. So the other 40% was divvied out to the Division of Housing to get out the door, and that's going to happen through our home ownership programs that we currently have for the first fiscal year. So July 1, 2023 through June 30th of 2024. We're not creating any new programs for Prop 123. We're simply going to use those Prop 123 funds to fund what we currently do. And that's going to be for home ownership. So that could be gap funding, down payment assistance programs, single family owner occupancy programs, any of those options, as well as homelessness response programs. So permanent supportive housing projects, those types of programs. We do take monthly applications for our acquisition, new construction, AC rehab for gap funding. And then we do a once a year program for our down payment assistance and once a year program for single family owner occupancy programs. So developers can then apply for any of those buckets of money through Prop 123 as long as the city opts in. The homelessness response programs, there is a huge need, as you all are aware. There are currently over 10,000 people in shelters, transitional housing, or unsheltered one night in the January 2022 point in time counts in the state of Colorado. We also have over 14,000 individuals estimated to need housing units with services, whether that be permanent supportive housing or similar models. And then we have over 21,000 students experiencing homelessness, doubled up, or as we like to call couch surfing. Over 37,000 individuals received homeless related services in 2022. And we expect that number to continue growing. We have over 53,000 individuals with stable housing covered by Colorado Medicaid, which that would be those same folks that would be in permanent supportive housing, transitional housing, these types of programs. And over 44,000 are anticipated in eviction filings throughout Colorado annually. So any program that's going to help with that homelessness prevention, homelessness care, that kind of thing, can apply for these funds. In addition to our annual and monthly applications for gap funding and construction, we also have the annual ESG NOFA that happens in the fall. Oh, yay. So if you will go to slide 11, please. And we're going to have to go backwards to some of those too. And then I can take it from there. Does it?
Arrow on the right.
It's vibrating.
There you go. Yeah,
Oh,
that one.
there we go. All right. Where are we at? Back to a couple of those. So the top is the development of supportive housing. So that's done through those monthly applications I was talking about. There's also outreach, which is funded through our annual ESG NOFA, which comes out every fall, as is the rapid rehousing. We also then have supportive services, also known as tenant supportive services. There's an annual permanent supportive housing RFA and the ESG NOFA every year for that pot of dollars. And then we have our development of bridge housing, which we take those monthly applications on. And then we plan to issue a special NOFA for both rental assistance and eviction diversion. So there are a handful of homelessness programs excluded from the opting in, meaning these applications can come in whether you opt in or not as the city. Those include tenant-based rental assistance, eviction defense, outreach, supportive services, and rapid rehousing. Those will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis. We do have what's called a engagement site for Prop 123. I do recommend everyone checking that out. There's a ton of information, there's service, there's feedback, you can post questions on there. There's a long list of fax pages and contact information. There's also key dates when the reporting is going to be due annually, those types of information. And now we're going to go back and discuss the Chaffa side, which is going to be the rentals, which I know a lot of folks are interested in. So these are the 3 tiers that Chaffa will be divvying out for Prop 123 funds. That land banking that was already started, that is going to be for 60% AMI below for home and for rentals, and then home ownership is 100% AMI and below. So that 60% for rental are normal tax credit deals that you see. Normally that's that AMI range. 60% area median income for those that don't know what AMI is. Those grants can go to local or tribal governments and loans to nonprofits to acquire and preserve land for affordable housing. So what you are ultimately doing is, if there's land out there available for sale, you can then just snag it up, snag several lots, and then you're just banking that land until, say, a developer comes around ready to develop some affordable housing. You could then sell that land to them or gift it to them to use for the affordable housing creation. So that's going to be 15 to 25% of the 40 or 60% that Chaffa received of Prop 123 funds. So that is a good chunk of it is going towards that land banking. The amounts for fiscal years 22-23 and 23-24 are listed there. The next program to come out is the equity program. So that is below market equity investment to create and preserve low and middle income multifamily rental housing. So this does allow for 90% AMI rentals, which we don't see a lot, especially with Chaffa funding. It's usually 60% and below. So this does open up that middle income or workforce housing rental range with these dollars. And that's actually going to be 40 to 70% of the total funds they've been allocated. So that will be a large portion of the program. And then the last tier is going to be concessionary debt, which is debt financing for the creation and preservation of affordable rental housing and modular and factory built housing. So this goes back to only being 60% AMI and below. So this is more that low to very low income families. This will be 15 to 35% of their total 60% allocation with those dollar amounts listed. There is tools online, both we have the website links, which I'm sure will be available to staff, as well as the bit there that you can go on and look at who all has already filed their commitments. And that's where the city of Pueblo will show up once they have finalized their baseline with our staff. In addition, there are consultants available if need be. If they're not able to figure that out with staff, we do have a consultant available to help them. The forecast for Prop 123 funds, the first year here is going to be approximately $151.8 million available through Prop 123. And we expect that to almost over double next year. Those are estimates, so keep that in mind, but we do plan for those dollars to keep increasing each year. So the state does have its regular funds that we put towards the affordable housing. These will add tremendously to those dollars. And so we want to make sure that each community has opted in so that any development has the opportunity for these funds, as we are seeing more and more applications for affordable housing. We want to make sure you all have the resources available to you. Otherwise, those other dollars that we see on a standard basis may already be used up. This opens another opportunity. All right, any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Counselor Winter.
Hi, thanks for that presentation.
Yes.
Really encouraging. What percentage, wouldn't you assume that cities with a higher population have a higher need for housing? And aren't they going to take a big chunk of this? I mean, how much do you think Pueblo can even get from
So,
this?
absolutely. So these funds are on a first come, first served basis. So it is not determined by size of municipality by
Or
any
need.
means.
'Cause
Or
I mean,
need.
the more population, the higher need you're going to have.
That is not absolutely true. We see a very high need in rural communities right now for housing. Because they have a lot of dilapidated housing and not any new affordable homes available.
Hmm.
So I don't think need is truly based off size by any means. What will determine is if you have developers ready to develop in Pueblo or not.
Hmm.
And I will tell you, I already have 3 folks that have came to me wanting to apply for Prop 123 funds in Pueblo.
Oh, good,
So, the desire for these funds is already out there in this community.
good.
And I also, spend a lot of time working with developers, trying to get more projects off the ground. So,
Mhm. Oh, what's going to be the average cost of these homes? Is it going to be what's considered affordable housing here is like $230,000?
so that is based off of numbers that we put out every year. The area median income tables come out every year based on current, population income. But the cost to develop these homes varies tremendously. It depends on if you're doing acquisition rehab, new construction. And it is also determined on what AMI range you're trying to meet.
Mhm.
So as you could see, the rental units, a lot of those programs are for 60% AMI and below, whereas home ownership's that 120%. That's gonna be your workforce range, that your nursing staff, your managers of Loaf and Jug, managers of McDonald's. That's kind of that 80 to 120 range. It helps those folks. And then that 60% and below usually is folks on fixed income, that kind of thing. But these funds are available for all of those developments. It's all based on what your developer is planning on developing and what they can afford and what AMI range they need to meet to make their deal pencil is what
Mhm.
we call it. So if it's an AC rehab project, it might cost more if you're having to do asbestos abatement, those kinds of things, than say a new construction on an empty lot that's already ready for construction. So
Sure.
each deal's different.
Yeah, it's pretty complex. And then you mentioned something that I've never heard of before, conservatory loan. What was that term?
The concessionary debt?
Yeah,
Through
what is
CHAPA?
that?
Yeah. I don't know where that went, but, so that is their program to add a secondary type of debt to a project that's more affordable. So I'm trying to think how to explain it better. So there is what we call hard debt on projects, which is your standard, you go get a conventional loan at your bank. And then a concessionary debt is kind of a second lower interest debt to that hard debt to start with.
Oh, okay. All right. That was simple. Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions?
Other questions? Counselor Graham.
Is there a time frame this needs to be completed by,
Yes.
and what's
November 1
what's
is
the
the
holdup
cutoff.
for the city not being committed?
So they did actually hit the submit button. This city staff did hit the submit button, but there was some confusion with what your guys' baseline was and how they determined it. So they're just working with our staff to kind of get that cleaned up. But I have no doubt that we'll meet that November 1 deadline.
Mayor.
Yeah, the baseline is very important and setting that baseline. And correct me if I'm wrong, Fallon, but because Pueblo has so much affordable housing now, our baseline is basically higher. And that requires us to commit to increasing that baseline by 3% a year. So because we have so much affordable housing, we have to commit
Even more than. a
even more
community that
affordable
wouldn't
housing
have
than
this
other
much.
communities might otherwise have to. So we've been working very hard to find that baseline that seems reasonable because I'm trying to remember the numbers I heard. Is it 1,300 housing units a year
Probably.
that our baseline would put us, that we'd be committing to building? And I'd like to see that happen, but realistically, that's,
1,300 units is a lot for one city.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
and
that's-
that's where our staff and your staff are working together
To try to
to
get that baseline figure reasonable.
exactly make sure it's an accurate representation of what your true need is and what's plausible.
Do we know how many units we built last year in 2022?
I have no idea.
I don't think we built any. Did we?
So
Brian maybe knows. Did we build any affordable housing units last year in Pueblo?
you
Built 200 units, market rate, all construction activity for 2022 was 200.
200, but
I was
that's
trying to
not,
think, did Mountain View come online last year? Mountain View Townhomes?
Oh,
Cause
yeah,
that would have been
yep,
one.
some of them, yep. So the Housing Authorities project
Yeah.
probably qualifies there as affordable housing.
Councilor Forrest?
I noticed you didn't mention anything about interest rates and are you completely out of that realm where you can help people in obtaining a discounted rate or?
We do have programs that offer loans at low interest rates. So that is for development costs. So a developer that would normally go get a construction loan at say 7 or 8% right now, we do have loan programs for 0 to 3% interest rate, depending on the project.
And that would be the interest rate for the construction loan itself.
And it can be a construction to perm. So we normally wouldn't match the term of the other permanent lender. So whatever other funding they have if it's a 17-year term or a 20-year term, we would match that low interest rate for that same term.
And a developer, say, wants to build a 100-unit apartment building. Are there restrictions as to the amount of rent that could be charged? And that is part of the process here.
It is.
Yeah.
So we put what's called a 30-year use covenant on a project when we fund the development. And so what that does is it will regulate the folks that can be rented to. So it'll be based on that area median income. So say the development, 100-unit development wants to reach 50 units at 60% AMI, and then another 25 units at 80, and another 25 at 120, or whatever that may look like. That use covenant is going to sit on that property for those 30 years with those set unit mix. Those rents and income limits do change every year. We update those annually. So they are based off current market standards.
There is a nonprofit organization in Pueblo right now is starting a housing development of which there is a lien on the land itself that is removed from the mortgage payment until a certain time out into the future. Is a program like that prohibited under the use of this 1-2?
No,
So
they
somebody,
would be able to apply for funds still.
okay. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Other questions? Seeing none, thank you so much, Ms. Miller, for that update. And we look forward to fully opting in here shortly as a city. All right, last on our agenda, our city clerk internship wrap up. So can I have Mr. Johnson to the podium, please? That was a quick summer, Mr. Johnson.
Yes, ma'am, and indeed it was. So I just this is gonna be my presentation over my internship with the city clerk's office. So I worked first off, my first couple weeks, I worked close and well, throughout the whole summer, I should say. I did work closely with the senior office assistant. I helped prepare city council meetings. She showed me how she ordered the dinners. And we went to like the various restaurants, and then we brought it up, and then she showed me how she set it all up and how she set all the papers up and name tags. And then she also showed me like where the archives of the historic city documents are and the ordinances and resolutions. I also assisted her, and she showed me how to like reconcile the budget for the office of the city clerk by comparing items that made it to finance, that made it to the bank statements, that made it to the credit card, and just making sure everything was like all aligned up. And I learned about, pardon?
You can advance your slides there, Tyler.
With this one?
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, perfect. I didn't even know it was up. All right. So I also learned about 311, which is a customer service line regarding general inquiries about government information. An example call that I took during my time there was if whether chickens were allowed within the city limits. I didn't know the answer, so I told the person I would get them over to code enforcement for more clarification on that. And an example of a non-311 call I took that was specifically for our office was from a candidate's representative as to when the elections petitions can be picked up and when these letters from our office are going out regarding the elections and petitions. So one of the common things that I would see in my email was CORA. This stands for the Colorado Open Records Act request. We got a lot of them from ordinary citizens, the media, and people associated with other different entities. The one I helped out with was for a journalist from the Pueblo Chieftain for campaign finance regarding the 2018, 2019, and 2021 municipal elections. So what I did for that project when I got started on it is I started going through the records, taking them apart, and then going to the scanner, scanning them, restapling them, and then save them to a folder on my computer and for her. And then I did that for about a day, and this because after the first hour you start to charge X amount for however many hours of labor we do on that core request. It kind of adds up. So she decided to come in over the course of several days, and I observed just to make sure the records didn't leave the office. So I also went on some liquor license inspections with the deputy city clerk on the south side of Pueblo. We went to Beer Bros, we went to Regency Liquor, and then we also went to the Walmart neighborhood market. Some of the questions that we asked them of these establishments is, where is your publicly viewable signage and license located at? What is your process for alcohol sales? And then where is your warning signs for underage tobacco and alcohol sales? I also had the opportunity to attend a liquor board meeting on July 5th, 2023. One of the things on the agenda was a nonprofit seeking a license for their event. And they showed a diagram of their event and where they would have be selling the liquor and how they would prevent underage sales. The liquor board also asked of them what do they look for on a valid ID. The that was one of the things that happened that night. Later on that night, there was also a hearing regarding an establishment that was the place of a homicide. I got to witness and see how the whole process works because they had the attorneys there. They heard some testimony from both sides, and they also handed down punishment for them. Let's see. So overall, I just got to see like the process of how licenses are granted and revoked sometimes. I also helped Marissa do a SWOT analysis for a liquor meeting. So this liquor meeting that we had one morning was to talk about the state's idea of having liquor licensees file for both the state and local at the same time. So SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So for the strengths of the proposal, I said it could potentially cut down on paperwork, time and effort savings, potential monetary savings for the offices, and everything is a concurrent review, which could shorten the process in time for the expedited renewals. For the opportunities, it would increase the communication overall, and we could work more closely with the state and have better communication with them to increase the effectiveness of the state and local offices. There could also increase the technology opportunities as well. For weaknesses, communication with the Department of Revenue is slow, and the processes like the electronic payments don't always line up. The accountability at the Department of Revenue is already vague, and it seems like a mass team approach to licensing. The notification letters are very generalized. They're vague communication tool. If they have to be reaching out more frequently to a licensee, this would be a barrier. There's also a potential error for things that may not be seen before they reach the state offices. So then for threats, the state receives incomplete applications. There's difficulty communicating. And if there is an issue, a licensee has the potential to reach reach a licensee prematurely, as currently happens. So I also worked on, it's one of my bigger projects, was the vacating of properties ordinances. And I examined ordinances and input information from a whole bunch of ordinances ranging from the years 1956 to 1972. Some of the information that I extracted from these ordinances and utilized was the ordinance number, the date passed, the filing edition, the plat, and the parties that were concerned. An example from my spreadsheet of this project is ordinance number 2271, passed on September 10th, 1956, is the Belmont 6 filing. The following utility easements in the Belmont 6 filing, north 10 feet of lot 16 in block 17. Sorry. I think I got ahead of myself back there. So that was the slide after this. I'm gonna go back here to the invocation projects. So basically this invocation project that Marissa had me do was to look into invocation procedures of other local governments. I focused on Colorado for a part of it and looked at cities comparable to the size of Pueblo. So some examples that I found trends is that what other local governments did was a moment of reflection, a moment of silence. The clergy speaks without promoting any specific religious beliefs given by any resident, or an inclusive invocation that is chosen by a lottery system. And then my last few weeks with city clerk's office, I've been actually down in sales tax, where I've been working down there on vehicle sales tax receipts, going back to 2020 is the oldest one that I've found so far. I'm looking to make sure, what I'm looking for on this project is if they lived in the city of Pueblo, that they remitted sales tax. The ones that I would keep is if they didn't remit sales tax, or if they lived in the county, like within like the other cities in the county, like Blinn, Pueblo West. The ones I would toss and get rid of is if they did not live in the county, or if they lived outside of the county, and or they paid they remitted sales tax. My takeaways from this experience this summer is that liquor licensees, they were eager to ensure that people were complying through these visits that we conducted. I was truly astonished to see a lot of these old records were so well preserved and organized. And I was also introduced to new tools like SWAT, Quora, and 311. I'd like to thank you, Mr. Mayor, and members of City Council and the City Clerk's Office for allowing me this incredible opportunity this summer. And I'm also happy to answer any questions too.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Johnson, for that very comprehensive presentation, and congratulations on finishing up your internship. Very exciting.
Thank you.
What questions are there for Mr. Johnson? Councilor Martinez Ortega.
I know I'm putting you on the spot, but did you like it?
I did. No complaints.
Do you see yourself working in city government or along like the city clerk kind of lines of work in the future?
It's definitely a possibility, a strong possibility.
Great. Thanks for your internship, your time, and all of your effort.
Yes, thank you for having me. I really appreciated it.
Other questions for Mr. Johnson? Councilor Flores?
I just want to say that I'm really impressed at the depth of what you were involved in. A lot of times with internships, they're very superficial, just kind of have you running around, but you really got a lot of valuable information, and you did a good job of digging deeper than most interns would do. And I congratulate you for that. I think you ought to run for city council.
One day, maybe. Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Mr. Johnson, for that presentation and for your hard work at the clerk's office via internship this summer. And congratulations again.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay, so that concludes then our agenda. I will conclude this work session at 6:33 for the regular meeting to start at 7 p.m.